Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Victoria and Emily After Dark. I'm Victoria Holmes.
And I'm Emily Severage.
And we are super excited to have everyone join us for tonight's episode because this is something that Emily and I are super interested in are these artificial food colors, dyes, artificial ingredients, chemicals that just seem to be in all of our foods, especially if they're packaged, and even some like sprays and chemicals that are being sprayed on our fruits and veggies. It's like almost impossible to get away from food additives and chemicals. It's so annoying.
Yeah. And I've even realized in kind of, my personal research and interest in this, that it's even stuff that's like our deodorant and the shampoo and body wash that we use and our laundry detergent. Like it's the craziest things are added into like our everyday products and foods. And it's scary kind of when you start to realize what you're actually, consuming on a daily basis sometimes.
And people don't understand, like some people are like, how bad can it be? Like some people say it's an overreaction, that you're being paranoid or that you're being OCD. And it's like, I think after like these chemicals have been added really since the 1950s, I think after like 70 years of data of what these chemicals can do, can kind of give us a pretty clear idea of how harmful they are. We talk about some of these chemicals causing hyperactivity in children, some of them being carcinogens, meaning that they're related to like cancer-causing chemicals and ingredients. And it's just like a lot of, I don't know, like I don't want to say common sense because that seems kind of rude, but it's like if we have 70 years of data showing that a lot of these ingredients are harmful, then maybe that's not being OCD or what's the word? Or, annoying. It's more just along the lines of I want to bring up what's in our ingredients and kind of have a wider discussion about like, can we take these out? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You can probably hear my dog barking in the background right now. I don't know if you can. Either my fiance just got home or there's someone at the door. Not sure what, but I'm not going to answer.
Is that Harley?
Yeah, Harley, our dog. She never really barks like that. I'm sure it's fine.
How many dogs do you have?
Just one, but we have 2 cats.
2 cats. Okay. I remember you had multiple animals. Yeah. And your dream is to have like a barn of animals.
A ton of them. A million gazillion of them. Yes.
Yes. But Harley is a sweetheart. I've met Harley and she's a cuddle bug.
She is such a cuddle bug. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. And actually my fiance is calling right now. So this is live streaming, I guess. What's going to happen? Hey, podcasting right now. What's up?
I'm locked out of the house.
All right, I'll come get you.
Pause. Time out. Pause. I'm locked out of the house. That is so funny.
Oh.
And Harley's she's being good. I really, really think Harley is a good girl. She's a rescue, according to Emily, and one of the nicest dogs. Not better than my dog, of course, because each dog has their own, special place in owners' hearts. But while Emily is going to save Eric, I'm going to pull up a few videos. And Eric has his own, podcast. What is Eric's podcast?
He does a Hornets podcast for I think the Charlotte Hornets or something. It's some sort of affiliate with that, and it's about sports.
Amazing. I love that for him. But he's been doing it for a while.
Yeah. They've been doing it for a good bit, and he does like freelance articles as well.
Good for him.
Websites, I think. Yeah, he enjoys it. But yeah, so sorry, he got locked out because I guess whoever the work people that I was telling you about earlier who came by decided to also, we have our back gate is broken, so it's usually doesn't latch. So we just go in and out of it all the time. And I guess they chose to fix it. So he got locked out.
Well, at least they fixed it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy that, Greenville, yeah, Greenville's not that dangerous of a city. It's really like the least dangerous city I've lived in, and I've lived in Dallas, San Diego, Austin, DC, Madrid. Madrid was pretty safe, but Greenville was probably up there.
Yeah, so that's not too bad. And we live on a safe little street, so it's not.
You do, yes. Yeah. Okay, so back to our topic of discussion. No, that's fine. This is. I mean, what it means to do a fun podcast, right? You know, a podcast that doesn't have guardrails like ours doesn't. We did get the intro down though this time.
Yeah, I'm so proud of us.
Thank you.
Yes. All around.
All around. So again, okay, so the main topic of conversation is the fact that California is banning food dyes. So I wanted to share, I think, a really good report. It's a pretty standard report that Fox LA did to kind of like give an example. Not an example, but give an overview of what exactly is happening in California. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then we'll just go from there. Sound like a plan?
Cool.
Yes, now the state law won't take effect until 2027, and the additives are reported to cause things like memory loss and hyperactivity in children, and the assemblyman who championed the bill is the father of 3.
It just made no sense to us that kids in America were getting, and in California, were getting significantly less protection from these chemicals than kids in other countries around the world.
With the passage of the California Food Safety Act, change is blowing through the food industry in California. Banned are red dye number 3, potassium bromate, brominated vegetable oil, and propylparaben. According to doctors, all 4 can cause cancer, hyperactivity in kids, and compromise the immune system. Assemblyman Jesse Gabriel authored the bill to ban the 4 chemicals, which are found in everyday foods, including Skittles and Troll gummies. The assemblyman told me the landmark law is not a difficult change for companies to make. In fact, some American companies have voluntarily changed the chemicals on their own.
If Coca-Cola can do it, and Gatorade can do it, and Papa John's can do it, and Dunkin' Donuts can do it, and they're still selling plenty of pizzas, and plenty of soda, and plenty of donuts, we have confidence that all these other companies can do it as well.
Parents we saw out grocery shopping today seem to agree. They want their children to be healthy and felt the change was minor, yet significant for their children. You think it's a good idea to come up with an alternative?
Definitely. Because, I mean, now that parents are more aware,
I don't want my children to get sick.
So that was, I thought that was a pretty good rundown of what's happening in California.
Oh, definitely.
And so there's 4 chemicals being banned, but there could be so many more. And the amount of products that have these chemicals is just mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's also kind of annoying in a way.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening.
And I'm kind of confused. Like sometimes, like I don't want to be, because in my family, I'm definitely the person that pays more attention to this than the rest of my family members, and probably a little bit more on average. Like what made you start noticing these things? Like where did your interests peak?
I think it was part of me getting really sick a couple years ago. And so I started being a little more mindful, I think, of what I was eating, just because I was needing to eat more things with higher calories and higher protein than I was used to. So I was looking more so at the ingredients, whereas before I kind of never looked at ingredients labels at all. I just kind of got whatever and ate whatever and was fine with it. But I was always kind of making conscious, healthy decisions anyway. But when I actually started like really paying attention to labels and ingredients and things, it was kind of like, okay, like I started making small mental notes of things, I think. And that was years and years ago, but I think it really was not until up until this year where I think like TikTok and social media, I just started kind of falling down these rabbit holes of information and from other content creators and from people similar to the guests that we speak with later, who is very much into the holistic side of food and medicine and things like that. So yeah, I think it's pretty recent for me. When did you kind of start, looking into this stuff or being interested in kind of?
So, this is a interesting topic of conversation for me personally, because it requires some like vulnerability, in the sense that like I started becoming super hyper aware of what I was eating, simply because I want it to be like thin and pretty. And it kind of all started like senior year of high school, when I knew I was going off to San Diego for college. And I kind of just had this, like, I need to glow up. Because in high school, I was very, like, I'm not going to say that I was ugly, but I was definitely, like, very average, definitely not someone who had a lot of boys blowing up her phone, none of that. And one of my best friends in high school was, like, a legit model, like, tall, skinny, blonde, always had, attention from males, had a lot of attention from females, but, like, very negative attention, in the sense that she was bullied. And so I got to witness that like firsthand, and see how, like how toxic it was. And I would like to think that I was not part of that toxicity, and we're still very much best friends to this day. But I did start thinking about what I was eating when I knew I was going to San Diego and wanted to have like a glow up for college. You know what I mean? So like, that's why I'm saying like, it kind of started off from like a negative mindset, because I became super restrictive with my eating and kind of OCD, not OCD, I don't want to say OCD because I'm not diagnosed with OCD, but I became very restrictive with what I ate, and made sure that I didn't have anything that was like with added sugars. And I cut out a lot of processed foods from my diet, which incidentally helped my acne, because I had really bad acne in college. But it wasn't until college that I like had to meet like the super restrictive mindset with the have fun, enjoy life, and like don't go crazy over what you're eating. So that's kind of like where it started, but it kind of continued when I realized a lot of the healthy foods that I was eating, healthy quote unquote, was bullshit, because that they also had super processed ingredients, even though they were marketed to me as low calorie or keto or are all natural ingredients. They still had these like horrible processed ingredients, like fake fibers that would cause so much bloating for me, and some sugars that were not the greatest. Like one of them is called Ace K, which is in Diet Coke, which I'm not claiming this, but I think it's a carcinogen or linked to some sort of, like it's a harmful ingredient. I think it's Ace K. It could be just one of those other ingredients, but things like caramel color, all sorts of ingredients where I'm like, it says 0 calories, but there's these harmful ingredients in them. So that's kind of when it came across my radar.
Yeah. And you mentioned like, with like your skin, like you notice like a difference in like acne and skin and stuff. And that's like big things that I started realizing too, was like headaches and fatigue and like breakouts, or like super crazy hormone levels all over the place. Like I was having, like crazy spikes of energy at night randomly because my like cortisol levels were high because I wasn't eating the right types of food and things. And it's just like all the different factors that like food can contribute to, or like the way that it affects your body in every single aspect is just, it's crazy. Because like our guest says, our interviewee says later, that like it's, not what you're eating, it's what you're absorbing. It's like more than that, and it's so crazy to think how even like skincare products are like such a huge deal of what you're actually putting on your body and like absorbing into your skin. It's just,
so annoying.
Yeah. It's so stressful.
That's the thing. It is stressful because it's like, okay, great. Like I have to have another, thing that I have to worry about when, even going to a place like Whole Foods is not necessarily always the best, because I think this is my thinking, because Whole Foods sold out because Amazon bought Whole Foods, I think that they just became less restrictive in the terms of like what foods they accept. And because they expanded so quickly that they needed to like start bringing in more products so that they can like have them available for their customers, but also make it at a price that isn't like insanely expensive. So
That's so funny. Me and my coworkers were literally talking about that this morning, like how they've noticed, because we don't have a Whole Foods near us, but they had started noticing one of the newer coworkers when the Whole Foods she used to go to, that like the products started changing over kind of slowly, and she was noticing things and like brands that weren't there before, because she knew that they had ingredients that like were not, added ingredients that didn't need to be there. And so she had made comment about that, and somebody was like, oh yeah, it's Amazon, like, because they bought them out. And it kind of exactly what you're saying, like the growth and expansion of it. That's so interesting. It's like, it's
sad.
money. It's so about money and profit.
And it's just cheap. It's just cheap food. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So I want to show another quick video. This one's a like 60-second short. I love this guy. I used to actually watch him a lot when I was, I think like a senior in college. Yeah, like already towards the end of my college career. His name is Bobby Flav City, and this kind of just gives you an idea of like how apparent it is.
Okay.
Chester Cheetah is not getting that color from cheddar cheese. It's from yellow number 6. Pain reliever with blue number 1. Red velvet cake mix, more like red velvet number 40 cake mix. Your favorite sports drink, red, because of red number 40. My friends, artificial colors like red 40 are derived from petroleum or crude oil. And here's the worst part about it. In the US, we allow that. But in other countries like England or the UK, they say no to red number 40 and yellow 5. They have to make those drinks with real food colorings like beta carotene or beets. And guess what? A lot of kids' foods have it in there too. Kids love fruit snacks, but not so much when it has red 40 and blue 1. How about Toucan Sam? They color their cereal with a triple dose of artificial colors, and that's a problem because artificial colors are directly linked to hyperactivity and obesity. And you're giving these to kids and they're bouncing off the wall and they can't focus. This is a prime example of profits over people. Avoid artificial colors at all costs.
And so I want to bounce off of you real quick and share these two, if I can. Let's see here.
Yeah, well, while you're figuring that out, I just want to add, I think, so when I go to a place like Whole Foods, obviously there is a markup because of the branding of Whole Foods, you're getting like better ingredients. But I do want to note that I've noticed a lot more natural, quote unquote, real Whole Foods sort of products in places like Ralph's, Kroger. Like they're getting really good at like doing like the brand, like the Ralph's brand version of that. Yeah. And I kind of want to give a comparison to something like Costco. Like Costco will have like knockoff products that I don't think are actually good. I still think they're knockoff. Like for example, they have like a protein bar that's like a knockoff of Quest, and it's the same ingredients, but those ingredients aren't good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's frustrating, but I think a lot of other places like Kroger, Ralph's, like those are the only kind of like ones that come to the top of my mind, do a better job of like offering better whole food products that don't, that aren't like also insanely expensive.
Yeah. Well, I cannot figure out how to share it because it's like 2 photos. So it's being weird. So I'm just going to read off them. So basically, in my, kind of journey of trying to control what I can control, I guess, as you can say it, I've started trying to switch out like certain foods and things like that where I can with better, products, better brands, better ingredients. So went to Aldi a couple weeks ago, switched out a couple things. One of them, because one of the biggest, top contenders of brands and products that is like horrible for you is Coffee Mate coffee creamer. Horrible. The added ingredients of that is awful. It's always at like the very tippy top of these like foods with horrible chemicals in it for you. And I love coffee mate creamer. So that was heartbreaking. And so I had to find an alternative. But so I basically just wanted to read the difference between my coffee mate creamer ingredients that I would buy at, Food Lion, Publix, and a almost identical coffee creamer that I bought at Aldi. So in Coffee Mate, sugar, water, coconut oil, sodium caseinate, milk derivative, less than 2% of propylene glycol, dipotassium phosphate, natural and artificial flavors, polysorbate 60, sodium sterol, lactylate, sucralose, color added. That's all the ingredients. I don't even know what I don't even think I said half of those correctly. That's Coffee Mate ingredients. The ingredients for the new coffee creamer that I got at Aldi that taste pretty much identical: non-fat milk, cream, sugar, natural flavor, salt. What the hell?
Yeah. And the interesting thing about the Coffee Mate thing is if you just left it at the first 3 ingredients, I felt, because it was like sugar, water, and coconut oil. I was like, oh, that's not bad. And then you got to the other stuff, and I was like, why? What's the point?
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so here's the second one I have. This is pasta, which this is random, but I had noticed that I bought a new pasta from Aldi. So I was like, I want to compare the ingredients. So this is a random spaghetti from either Publix or Food Lion. Ingredients: durum wheat semolina, vitamins, niacin, thiamine monotriate, riboflavin, folic acid, iron, contains wheat, may contain soy. That's kind of interesting. And then I look at the ingredients for pasta I bought at Aldi: durum wheat semolina. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. See, and that's the thing, because like some of the ingredients that you mentioned are like vitamins, right? In the first one. But there's an issue with synthetic vitamins in the sense that like there's an actual debate about whether how much they actually help you. You know what I mean?
It's just, why are you adding? I mean, it's literally wheat and egg. Like, why it's crazy to me. And the other one that I found really crazy, which I didn't get to put together the little label thing that I just did, but was Quaker Oats. Was insane. The ingredient list on Quaker Oats is like 10 or 15 ingredients on their oatmeal packet, their oatmeal. And then you look at, I got a different brand of oatmeal, exact same thing, maple brown sugar, my favorite flavor, from Aldi. And it has less than 5 ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I always thought Quaker Oats was one of the things, my mom gave us growing up. Like, we always thought it was super, super healthy. Like, one of the, better brands was Quaker Oats. But apparently in even, European countries, like the conversation, that we have with our guests later, is that it really is these ingredients, these companies, these food manufacturers really do create different formulas for the food in other countries. And it's just America that has all these added things to it.
That's just so wild.
Isn't it? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. But it's, and in my mind,
like, that has to be costing these companies more money. It has to be costing more resources to have to be like, oh, we have to do this formula for these people and this one for these people and this one over here. Like, it should be way cheaper and way easier to just do one overall. Like, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is something else that I kind of brought up in our conversation. Like, it was just a mention, but I did find something. So I mentioned something along the lines of how the FDA and USDA have like weird food regulations. And the reason I mentioned that is because a day before I saw a John Oliver piece, love him or hate him. I enjoy watching his pieces. I find them informative. Sometimes they're kind of annoying, but for the most part, I really like them. And his Sunday, I think he airs on Sundays. His Sunday episode was about food safety. And I thought he was going to talk about the California ban at least included, but he didn't. So this was just kind of like a random happenstance. He decided to talk about food safety the same week that we were doing, or the week after we were doing our conversation. So I'm not going to play like all of it, but I did find the part of that video that he kind of like talks about the difference between the difference between the USDA and FDA. And I kind of just want to get your reaction on it, Emily, just because I just find it so interesting.
Also, interestingly, the FDA doesn't actually oversee the safety of all food in the US. It oversees around 80% of it, but the remaining 20% largely falls under the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service. And the division of responsibilities can get maddeningly complicated. The USDA oversees beef, poultry, and some egg products, and the FDA oversees the rest. In practice, where the exact lines get drawn can get ridiculous.
Take a look at this. Beef broth made in a plant regulated by the USDA, which inspects every day. But chicken broth made in a plant regulated by the FDA, which is inspected once every 5 years. In the frozen food aisle, cheese pizza is regulated by the FDA. Pepperoni pizza? Well, that's the USDA. The fish? Well, that's FDA. Except one, catfish, that's USDA.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing. It can be very difficult to guess which agency oversees which kinds of food. For example, eggs in their shells, FDA. Eggs processed into egg products, USDA. The feed that egg-laying hens eat, FDA again. Open-faced meat sandwich, USDA. But closed-faced meat sandwich, that's FDA. And as you know, if you make a half cheese, half pepperoni pizza and then put an egg on top, the whole government actually explodes.
So yeah, so that was pretty much like the part that I wanted to
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Okay, thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking.
I didn't know that, and that is like 20 million times more confusing than I thought it was. Like, how do they choose that? How do you... That makes literally no sense, and neither are regulating each other. And one does checks every day, and one does checks every 5 years. That makes no sense.
And that's why I get so frustrated with our government standards for food.
Yeah.
First of all, they're not even the same regulatory agency for foods, you know? And to me, it does make sense to have like a regulatory agency for dairy products and for meat products and for fish products and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I understand that, but it's not even that specialized. It's just
no. To be like, you can have pepperoni pizza, but we'll take cheese pizza. Like,
it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I was just like, when I saw that, that's what came to my mind when we were talking to our guest about like food regulations and stuff like that. Like, you have to be your own advocate when it comes to this stuff.
Yep. That's so true.
To me, it would kind of like make sense to like get a, oh, my dad just texted me. Hi, Dad. By the way, he was one of the stand-in guest hosts last week. Jen was our other stand-in guest host. So I did my dad and Jen, and then my friend Emma. So we were like full court press with our coverage.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like it's like, to me, it's kind of like it would probably benefit a lot of our public school systems to include a food education class. Just so people can and a tax, because when I first did taxes, I was so lost. But just kind of like something like that.
Oh yeah, because I mean, like I don't know if you did, but I had like home ec, but I sure as heck didn't learn like anything really in that. Like I think we sewed some pillowcases, and then maybe made like pancakes one day. That's not helpful. But like, even school lunches, for example, are horrible. Like the food that we put in our public school systems in the cafeteria are awful. They're not healthy whatsoever at all. Like I remember some of the crap that they used to feed us, like those square pizzas. I mean, I won't lie that they tasted pretty good, but like thinking back on it now, like that was disgusting. Like the things that we ate. And I remember seeing an article, I don't know where it was from or whatever, but it was years ago. And there was some article and it was like a photographer basically doing a series of different school lunches like around the world, basically. And, you know, America's was like slop on a tray, like sloppy joes, a square pizza, like, you know, the canned milk or whatever it was, the box milk and whatever else, like the sugar-filled fruit in a cup or whatever, just the nasty, nasty stuff that we had, right? And then all the other, you know, school lunches in these other countries were like fresh meats and cheeses and olives and grapes and fruits and fresh fish and like all of these beautifully well-balanced meals that were fresh and healthy. And like, it's just, yeah, it's like, dang. It feels like they don't care about us.
You feel like what?
I was making a joke. Like, it feels like the government doesn't care what they don't care what they're giving us. What'd you say?
I was like, because they don't.
No, yeah, fair.
Yeah. So so you shared your product recommendations, and this was a product recommendation that I made during our interview, but I didn't have it with me, but this time I have it with me.
Nice.
And so this is something that I do want to highlight for people who are like trying out like these whole food products. Look at the ingredients, number one. And I'm a big advocate for exposing harmful marketing practices because number one, I think they're so deceptive. Number two, I think companies making money off of people who are just uneducated about food products pisses me off because they know that they're taking advantage of people who think that they're eating healthy or buying a healthy product when in reality it's just fake chemicals. That for some reason that just gets me like so angry. So I'm always a big advocate of saying like make sure you're eating like what you're eating is actually like whole food is like whole food ingredients and that you're not getting scammed by buying something that's $7 that is probably cheaper, that is probably made of cheaper ingredients than something that's more natural. So I just get so mad. So one of the big things is that a lot of products, especially on Amazon, will sell bars, drinks, or whatever, and they'll have something like lion's mane or ashwagandha or reishi or maca or like these herbs that I love. I love, big advocate of herbs, but they won't tell you how much of that herb is in them, which to me is so suspicious. So one brand that I like, it's called Rebel. Love this brand. And this is the reishi chocolate. And they tell you how much of the ingredient they have in there. So it says reishi mushroom extract and it says 200 milligrams. And it says how much caffeine, which I'm a big fan of because I get so, hyperactive with caffeine. And then it'll tell you like the MCTs, which is like a big thing if you're into keto, 4 grams. And then the ingredients are good. Like I'm just going to read them because you can't see them. So the ingredients are organic coconut milk, organic coconut sugar, organic alkalized cocoa powder, organic acai, I can't pronounce this one, organic cocoa powder, organic vanilla extract, pink salt, organic quillia extract, organic reishi mushroom extract, organic stevia extract, gel and gum, zinc gluconate. I mispronounced 2 of those words. Sorry. Or my bad. But basically, like, I really like that brand simply because they do put the amount of these herbs on the label. Now, it is expensive. I'm not going to lie, but I would say about every quarter or so, like every 2 to 3 months, I guess a quarter is 4 months. So don't, yell at me. But is a quarter 4 months or is a quarter 3 months? I don't know.
Yeah,
Every
right?
2 months. I don't know. Whatever. About 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. About 4 times a year, they'll have a 3 for $9 sale. So you get 3 of these bottles for $9. And I like to get their green tea, which has 75% 5 milligrams of L-theanine and 3,000 milligrams of matcha. And no, excuse me, 3,000 grams of matcha, which has 75 milligrams of caffeine and 45 milligrams of L-theanine. So I just love knowing that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's just my soapbox that I just am now ready to step off of.
I love that. And I have I've been making this list in my phone, in my notes folder, and I'll have to share 2 of them with you, because one of them I've started is basically just like anytime I stumble across an article or like holistic medicinal practitioner or somebody, talking about herbs or food or different kind of like healing properties of different things, I kind of have created this like very intense list in my phone of, I'm not even kidding, of all of like the herbs and things that have benefits for you. So ginseng, for example, like is the last one that I have on there. And I actually just bought a green tea, lemon and ginseng tea, and it's so yummy. So basically ginseng's supposed properties are they're anti-inflammatory, anti-aging, aids in memory and memory loss, improves mood, boosts immune system, boosts your energy levels, and aids in menstruation. Things like that. So all these random, dates promote hair health and growth. They're great for iron deficiencies. Grapes relieve constipation. They boost your brain power. They can lighten scars. They're a powerful anti-aging, antioxidant. Just like all these different, lion's mane I have in here. Stimulates new brain cell growth, improves depression and anxiety, supports gut, heart, and immune health, and supports against dementia. So just, I don't know, I have to share this with you because I just like find things like this so interesting, and to start learning it about, there's all these different herbs that you can help as a female balance your hormones with if you have issues with like PCOS or, irregular periods. Like there's, herbal supplements or herbal teas that you can take with like concentrates that can kind of help with things like that. And I just think that in the grand scheme of this conversation, like it's just so fascinating the way that food and the things that we consume affect our body,
It's more just like, it's kind of fun to do your research and to kind of like rediscover that there are, some cool things that you can add to your health and wellness routine that can be extremely beneficial. Like instead of drinking coffee, I now pretty much just drink green tea. And I do want to kind of like put like, so I've been experimenting with herbs since college. And a lot of them you have to take on a full stomach. I would advise not taking some of these on an empty stomach. There are some that you do have to take on an empty stomach to get the full benefits. And those are usually more of the amino acids that you have to take, like taurine and, taurine's the only one that I can think of at the top of my mind. But those, they say, take on an empty stomach so that your stomach can absorb those amino acids. But a lot of the other stuff, like green tea, for example, I can't drink on an empty stomach simply because I do get a lot of, I do get nausea when I drink it, which is not uncommon and it's not a bad thing. It's just that there's like a certain thing in the plant that causes that. So just, I would say do your own research, or if you're just starting out into this, don't go crazy. Don't do the herbs, just do the more natural foods, just dates, avocados, eggs, those kind of things. Like you don't have to go crazy with the herbs unless you want to, because it's fun if you like, it's like learning a new, I don't know, just something new. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, don't just take our word for it just because this is, something that we're interested in, and don't just say, well, they're talking about, lion's mane, so I'm going to go buy some and take it. Like do your research and figure out like if this is, something you're interested in, and if not, cool. And, I always like try to say like, do what you feel like and you can control and what you want to control at that time type of thing. Because my fiance always makes the joke to me because I, talk about this food stuff a lot with him because he loves drinking Mountain Dew, and Mountain Dew is another one of those like with Coffee Mate. It's like right up there. And I'm like, stop it. Like, let me order you the European brand at least. Like, oh my God. He's like, no. But he always makes the joke to me that, I still vape, which I know is a horrible, disgusting, awful habit. I am addicted to it. I tried kicking it. It's something I am choosing not to take control over right now. And you know what? Like, say people can say what they want. They could judge what they want. That's okay. That's kind of where I'm at in my life journey, that I'm choosing to want to take control over the food that I'm eating and how that makes me feel and how that affects my body. And right now, the vaping is an aspect that I don't feel like I want to take control over and change just yet. And I know that's such a double-edged sword, maybe a little bit, and kind of hypocritical. Sure, if I'm sure people could look at it that way, but I think control what you want to and feel like you can with the resources and the energy and the time that you want to put into something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely more like step by step, which is what our guest said. And when it comes to addictions, and sugar is an addiction, just kind of stuff like that, just baby steps, and sometimes you just don't have the emotional or mental capacity to deal with those things. There might be someone who passed away. There might be a new job taking over your life. There might be, these instances in your life where you're just kind of like, I can't, like, my health, unfortunately, at this moment kind of has to take a backstage because something else takes a priority. But you can always come back and you can always, kind of start over. That's the beauty about this life, is that, and the sad thing is that nothing is permanent. But at the same time, I think there's always, ways to approach health and wellness and from a mindset that's more like, we're just going to do the thing and we're not going to make it super restrictive. We're not going to make it super consuming. We're just going to approach it from a mindset of, I want to feel better. I'm not trying to look like a certain person or, try to look like what the Instagram page tells me I'm supposed to look like. I just want to feel good. So I think if we start approaching it from that way, it'll give you so much more in return, besides like trying to look a certain way or, have a certain body type or anything like that.
Exactly. Because I think that's so similar to what we had talked about with one of our former guests, was that he was saying, it's there was this meme that was out for a while that was like somebody who was, overweight, and they were like, I'm so unhappy or something, with a little bubble over their head. And then it like goes, time changes and they're skinny, but they still have that little bubble, like, I'm not happy type thing. So it really is like about just wanting to feel good about yourself and what you're putting in your body, and not like yourself, like your image, but I'm saying like when you wake up in the morning, like you feel ready to go for the day, like you feel mentally clear and you feel like you're able to do what you need to do that day with like strength and clarity and, the flexibility to do things. And I think something else we've talked about is that, it can be really hard in this country, especially trying to navigate that if you don't have necessarily maybe the income for it or the resources for it and where you live, that there are very much these kind of like health food deserts where there's not areas with access to like, local vegetables or, supplements or, fresh herbs that you can buy or grow or et cetera. And I think that that's something to note as well, that it's, control what you can control and that you feel like you're able to. So,
yeah. I think on that note, that's a perfect way to get into our conversation to talk about a lot of the chemicals. She goes more into like what the chemicals are and some of the side effects of the chemicals. And also, I think it's also a good place to end because I think we're both a little sleepy. So we're going to, enjoy our conversation. And then Emily I'm so jealous of Emily. She gets to go and travel the world. She's going to Florida. So I'm super, super jealous. But I think that's a good, like, I'm happy to see you doing a job where you get to do that kind of stuff, especially because you live in Greenville, North Carolina. So
I know I need to get out of the house sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's very cool, but I definitely am very much a homebody who is an introvert. So it's definitely, I push myself out of my comfort zone to do these things for my job. So while they're very fun and very cool experiences, I am also very much anxiety ridden majority of the time. So, yeah.
I was gonna say you've learned. That's a good experience for you, just to kind of learn how to bring yourself back to center and all that good stuff.
And actually very much has, because I think I used to kind of be the person that was like the panic one, whether I was showing it outwardly or not. But with my job, I've kind of been in so many situations where I am kind of like the point person for something. So I cannot be panicking because everyone else is looking at me for the reassurance and calmness. So I've had to like snap out of it, figure it out, swallow it, whatever. And so I think it's helped me a lot, actually, in so many ways, kind of like just navigate life and be like, all right, bitch, get over it, figure it out. You got to go. So, all right.
Totally understand. Yeah. Speaking of gotta go, we're gonna welcome our guest, Paula Sturm, and we're super excited for y'all to hear this conversation. And we hope everyone after the conversation enjoys the rest of your week and enjoys the rest of your night. All right, goodbye. All right, Paula, thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful sunny afternoon. I bet in California, where you're based at, it's probably pretty nice out there.
Yeah, it's actually pretty warm today and this week. So we get these weird little moments during the fall where it gets pretty hot for a few days and then it'll cool down and it gets cool at night. So fall's interesting.
Yes, I am super excited to have you join us on this conversation about California's ban on red food dyes and a few other chemicals. But before we get into that conversation, can you tell our audience who you are, what you do, and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Paula Sturm, and I have a private practice in California in San Diego called Radically Nourished, and I'm a registered dietitian and a functional medical nutritionist. And I see a lot of people with autoimmune conditions and gut health issues, hormone balance. So that's sort of me in a nutshell.
So when a lot of people hear functional nutritionists or like those kind of words that are like very like cool on Instagram, do you think people get kind of like hesitant or skeptical about what you do? And if so, how do you address that?
Well, I'm sure there is some people that are skeptical, but they usually don't seek me out or they're really not my people. So there are plenty of people that are looking for what I do. So, and those are who I attract. So I stick in that realm.
I love that. And how did you get started in being interested in this and making it kind of a career path choice? Because, this is something I'm personally very interested in, like holistic health and medicine and how food can heal our body. So how did you kind of find that path?
Yeah. So during my internship, so this is a second career for me. So I was really interested in just health and preventative measures for quite a while and decided to go back to be a dietitian. Through my education and through my internship, it became very much Western medicine based and didn't feel very preventative at all. And so that was really disheartening. And it really felt when I was in my internship that I had no voice or no say or wasn't taken seriously in what I had to offer, which was really disappointing. And so it was really my goal after I finished that internship to find more alternative measures, more holistic health, preventative ways to prevent the people that I was seeing in a hospital that were so sick. And it seemed like it was too late at that point. I really wanted to prevent that from happening. So that's where I'm at today.
So that's interesting that you talk about preventative measures, because I think that would probably be like a good kind of like segue into our main topic, which is like these harmful chemicals that California is banning. And I want to put like quotations around harmful, at least right now, until we get to like why they're harmful and maybe some reasons about why California is banning them. So California is banning a few chemicals. That law won't go into effect, I think, until 2027, November of 2027. But one of these chemicals is red food dye. What is like so harmful about red food dye? And maybe give us some examples of foods that have like red food dye.
Yeah, so the one that's being banned in California is red dye number 3. So there's actually a few different numbers like red dye number 40, red dye number 3. So we're only banning red dye number 3. Hopefully 40's next on the list, honestly. So sometimes you'll see both in a product as well. But so red food dye number 3, it can be found in different things like Hostess Ding Dongs, Marshmallow Peeps, although they have voluntarily removed that dye. So good for them. Same with the Hot Tamales candy. They also voluntarily removed that dye. But you can still find red dye number 3 in Brock's candy corn, which this time of year is pretty common. And Dole fruit cups, their cherries have red food dye number 3. And you'll also find it in, not surprising, McCormick's red food coloring. So you'll find it in that, and also in Pez candy. So a lot of different candies will have these things in them, and it's harmful for several different reasons and is being banned for some health concerns, especially cancer risk. So it can be a carcinogenic, which is problematic. And this food coloring, along with several others, tend to create some hyperactivity in children. So that's another concern, like behavioral concern with food coloring in particular. So that's another reason why it is being removed.
Gotcha. And from your, opinion and from your, professional experience, why are these things do you think that our government is allowing to be put into certain foods and that we're consuming? Why is this being added into ingredients?
Well, I personally feel it's a money issue. They're cheap. They preserve a lot of these things that are being removed are preservatives, and maybe they change like the colors, the textures, so they seem more appealing. And so they use them. Europe has removed all of these ones that are also being removed here. Europe has also banned them, and among some others as well. And they've removed them because of their health concerns. Now, here, I just don't feel like we're reviewing the science enough. And so they have been on the generally recognized as safe list. But things change over time, and we need to relook at some of these things and also take into consideration when you're putting red dye number 3 and red dye number 40 and yellow 5 and yellow 6 and brominated vegetable oil and potassium bromate all in the same product. How do they all act together? We're looking at one ingredient here as having potential impacts on somebody's health, but what is the collective impact of all of these things? And then if you're eating Hostess Ding Dongs and Pez candy, and also some other like Sara Lee cinnamon buns and things like that have polyparabens in them, you're looking at just having this mass load of artificial ingredients that your body doesn't recognize as food. So I'm really happy actually that California is taking the measures to take these out of our food supply here.
Mm-hmm. And are you aware, like off the top of your head, do you know what the other chemicals are?
Yeah, so red dye number 3, like we've just been talking about, brominated vegetable oil, which can be found in some soft drinks, particularly like Sundrop, Orangette, Stars and Stripes. It has been voluntarily removed from Mountain Dew already and from Gatorade, so those companies have taken it out on their own. Potassium bromate is another one that is of concern and generally found in a lot of different baked goods. And polyparaben is another one, again, found in some baked goods and some nut mixes. So those are the ones that are being banned here.
Gotcha. And for again, like this is something that personally really interests me and I'm very passionate about. So in doing my own research, I've been able to find that, say grocery stores like Aldi or Whole Foods are places that don't carry products with these added ingredients or these chemicals. So what would you suggest to somebody who's maybe interested in this and kind of just starting along that journey of trying to figure out how they can eat healthier and remove all these added toxins and chemicals, et cetera? What's kind of that first step of research maybe that they should be taking?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of information online, so you can find so much that you can look at there. My one thing I recommend to clients is shopping at those more natural food stores and eating less from packages, and anything that's going to be brightly colored and highly flavored generally are going to have some things in there that aren't food. And so I'm always recommending people look for food ingredients. Do you recognize it? Is it broccoli? Is it wheat flour? Is it dairy? Does it actually resemble a whole food item? And if you can't pronounce it, like some of these things are incredibly hard to pronounce, if it's not looking like food, then maybe we should be suspicious and find an alternative and maybe go look it up to see, are there any areas that might point to this being less than healthy? Some of the places I'll look is Environmental Working Group or Think Dirty are some great places to start looking at research and understanding, like, what's a red, what's a green, what's a yellow. Maybe they're a little bit is okay, and then also my recommendation for people is not to go to the other end of the spectrum and start worrying about, oh my God, I fed my kids candy corn, I'm doomed, or I've been eating it, or I have eaten it, or I'm eating it right now. Not to worry about that. We know what we know when we know it, and there's always an opportunity to make another choice. So now, all right, well, I'm going to replace this with something else, and maybe we replace it with something else that's just a little bit better. We know that these certain foods here have these certain ingredients. I'm going to remove it, and maybe we find out later that what we've chosen also has some things we want to remove. But it's those baby steps. And so it's not to freak out and go crazy and thinking that you've made huge mistakes and that everything's doomed. It's, all right, now I know this information. How can I do better? What can I research? How can I understand maybe what to eat a little bit better? And really looking for those whole food ingredients.
There was something that you mentioned earlier about some countries in Europe already banning a lot of these ingredients, are probably not even having them in the first place. Is there truth to that, like European food standards are healthier than American food standards?
Generally, yeah. I mean, they have already taken the initiative to take these chemicals out of their foods. And it's interesting because these companies are in Europe. They've reformulated their products to meet the European standard. So it's not like we can't do that here. We could have candy corn without red dye number 3, so it's not like we're going to be taking all of these foods away and you can never have them. And I think that's what some people are thinking. Oh, the government's taking all of our food away. No, these food companies know how to make these items without these ingredients. They're doing it already. Why can't we do it here? And I think that's the stand that California is taking.
I love that. So for somebody in the profession that you do, if somebody, were to go to your website and kind of want to go through a consultation, what does that kind of look like? Because I know you really hone in on people's different life experiences, the different, if they have different imbalanced hormones, like all those different, components. So how do you go about kind of honing in on how somebody should kind of start making different choices?
Yeah, well, I do a thorough health assessment. So I ask a lot of questions on how people are doing, evaluating certain signs and symptoms that somebody might be currently struggling with and knowing what they might mean. So if somebody is coming to me and they have headaches and they're super tired in the afternoon and they're having a hard time losing weight and they have brain fog, I'm thinking, is there some thyroid issues here? Could there be some blood sugar things going on? And so I'm starting to question and formulate what could potentially be going on. And then I like to do some testing. Let's do some blood work. Let's see if we can see any patterns there. Can we do some hormone panels to see if there's any imbalances in hormones, especially as people get in, or especially women as they get into around their 40s, there's always going to be some sort of hormonal imbalances. And so that's really common to see. And it's who I often see in my practice. So, I'm already looking for the standard picture. I'm like, oh yeah, because I've seen so many of you here in my practice already. I can already tell kind of what's going on. And so once I go through some paperwork, we sit down I do everything virtually for a 90-minute session. we talk more, get some more clarity on what's happening, and then we start our recommendations, looking at food, really dialing in, all right, what am I seeing here? Where can we make some optimizations? Are we skipping breakfast? Are we not eating balanced meals? Are we eating a lot of carbs early in the day? And we looking for those patterns and making those adjustments. So I'm very food first, and that's where I'm going to be making most of my recommendations, and then layering on lifestyle and supplements and certain things that can also be supportive.
So I have like a 2-part question. And the first one is, what is the most common, not disease, but probably like illness or struggle that that maybe women or generally anyone is currently like comes across the most in your practice? And what is the supplement that you would recommend? Because I'm a big like supplement person, so I'm curious what would be a supplement that you would recommend just for general wellness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, oh gosh, there's so many things I can go down here. But I see even people that come to me with like, oh, I'm having a hard time losing weight. 9 times out of the 10, it seems to always come back down to somebody's gut health. And so that's often where things go, the direction things go. Not always, but a good majority of the time, people are struggling with something going on in their gut. And that's leading to difficulties losing weight and difficulties in their hormone balance and just overall sluggishness, brain fog, mood issues that I see a lot as well. Even allergy symptoms can have a gut connection as well. So I see a lot of people that have like little smatterings of all of those things. And yeah, come to find out, yeah, they're constipated, or they're bloated a lot of the time, or they get some heartburn pretty frequently. And so balancing their gut out and figuring out what's happening there and supporting that can make the world of difference. It's really crazy. A supplement. Well, since we're on the gut health path, and there's really no like, oh, everybody should take this one thing and it's going to be the magic, because it needs to be so dialed into what somebody has going on. It's so individualized. But for the most part, what I find really helpful for a lot of people and can be really supportive is a spore-based probiotic is probably the one thing that I recommend the most, and is oftentimes well tolerated by the most people that I see. So not every probiotic is tolerated by everybody. So, but that's a whole can of worms there. But that would be like my one, I guess, supplement in that whole gut health realm anyway.
Love that. And I'm curious again, and I went on your website and did some deep dives and things like that. I didn't see anything, and I could have totally just missed it, about like holistic health when it comes to kind of like plants and herbs and things like that. And I'm curious if that's something that you implement in your practice and what your opinions on that are.
Using plants and herbs as far as supporting somebody. Yeah, I do some of that. I am not an herbalist, or, there's people that specialize just in that whole herb front, but I certainly use them in certain circumstances, especially in the like the adrenal space, if you will, or the hypothalamus adrenal HPA axis. So sometimes there can be supportive herbs like ashwagandha that can be really helpful in that space when somebody's dealing with a lot of stress and it's taking a toll on their health and how they're feeling. So that's a common one that I'll use in my practice.
I'm a big like herbs person, just because I feel like a lot of like medicine can be like super harmful on like your organs, like kidneys or anything like that. So I try to like stick to herbs. And so like right now my big thing is like matcha green tea, because this is an amino acid technically, because of like L-theanine and the caffeine kind of like combination really keeps me like very, very like focused and like not like jittery, like super, super jittery. I've also, because this is all from a brand called Rebel, which I also think is the San Diego based brand. And they have like cacao, coconut milk mixtures with ashwagandha. I don't know if ashwagandha. But I love that they include like the milligrams or micrograms or whatever, like the amount of the herb or the amino acid included in the nutrition panel, because I am so skeptical of foods and drinks that will say like it has lion's mane or it has reishi or like all these other things, but it's like the last ingredient on the list. And I'm like, okay, but how much are you using? Because if I'm paying $5 for a bar and it has like very, very like trace amounts of it, then I'm not going to get any benefit from it, you know?
Yeah, I know. And the whole supplement space and even like the drinks, and which I love green teas and I love teas in general. So I recommend those a lot, especially if it's all right. Let's just see if we add in like you said, like some lion's mane or some reishi. Get a tea that has those in. See how you do with that. Start off with some teas. I really do like recommending those. But yeah, you have to be careful because they could just be putting these little bits in something and it really has no benefit. You have to be careful of the quality. You have to be careful where you're buying these things. So there can be some risks associated, and you don't want to just go to some random store and buy things that you aren't sure how they're backed or what their research is or what their process is. So you really want to look into a lot of that. I really make sure that I'm looking for third-party tested supplements, those types of things. But yeah, oftentimes they're just throwing in a little bit and then charging $8 for it just because, oh, well, it has adaptogens in it, so we can charge you more for that. So yeah, you have to be careful for that, for sure.
Definitely. And I'm curious if you think, obviously this law change happening in California is amazing, and hopefully it is a catalyst for other states to maybe pick up the same kind of idealization. I don't know if that's the word I was going for. But do you truly see it being a catalyst? I mean, I think we all kind of hope that it will be, but do you see that actually moving forward? And if it does, how soon do you think other states might follow suit?
Yeah, well, I do. Well, I think just by the fact that a company has to reformulate a product for California, they're not going to just say, oh, well, we're only reformulating Pez for California, and then the rest of the country will do our standard. It's like, well, if we're doing it for California, forget it. We're just doing it for everybody. So I think there will be a lot of that where they're just going to, all right, we'll just pull it out and that's what everybody's getting. So there'll kind of just be a downwind effect because of California's new rules here. So hopefully it'll just spread across the country just by that. But hopefully other states do realize the importance, and maybe if they haven't yet, seeing how it impacts California and how it really maybe isn't that big of a deal that we take these things out. It's not going to hurt a business. It's not going to hurt the products. We're still going to be able to have them, there's other issues with those types of things that are a different conversation. But yeah, I think it can start having a downwind effect. Somebody has to take the stand, right, and be the first one to do it.
And so one of the things that I'm starting to notice, and I don't know if this has happened recently or if I've always just been kind of blind to this, but even some of like the health food stores, like I know we mentioned Whole Foods earlier, I feel like even some of them are starting to become, maybe because they were bought up by Amazon or something, but they're starting to have more products and food items. And I say food items because it's like, I don't technically would call it food. That is not would be considered, in my opinion, a whole food with like just natural ingredients. Like some of them having like caramel color and sodas and stuff like that. Is that is that something that is more new, or do you think that was something something that always existed with kind of like more like whole food stores like Sprouts, Whole Foods? I can't think of a third one, but I know there's more. Like here in DC, there's one called Mom's Organic Foods, which kind of lies around the Whole Foods area. Is that a new pattern, or do you think that's kind of just marketing that's been around?
I think the quality has gone down, where we're seeing some more products that have some ingredients that should this really be in this store when it's marketed as a health store? I have seen an uptick in that, and I do feel like it might have had something to do with the Amazon buyout of Whole Foods. I think it was a little bit more granola, if you will, just kind of very clean and as its intentions. But then I think as demand for certain things, they've added them in and made them cleaner, but they could maybe shouldn't have been there in the first place. So yeah, unfortunately I have seen a little kind of dirtying up of places like Whole Foods. So you still, even when I go to Whole Foods, have to look at my packages and make sure, that everything is good and meets my standards. Yeah. It's easier than going to a standard grocery store, but still, I think there are some things like that.
And I just started thinking about, and none of us might have the answer to this question, but it makes me think all of these different, I guess, food laws in these different countries, is that not extra work and more money being shelled out by these food companies, these manufacturing companies? Are they not putting out more resources and having to spend more money to make these different formulas? Why aren't they pushing back against countries and saying, like, no, this is too, like, you're making it too complicated. This is the formula. Or is that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just where my train of thought is going, that why don't they push back? That has to be more difficult for them to have these multiple formulas in different countries and have to ship them out. And so I just find that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, or I just think that's so interesting.
Yeah. That is an interesting question. I really am not sure, but the fact that they're just, okay, well, we'll voluntarily take it out and just keep making Mountain Dew. We just won't put it in. It's like, didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. So why did you put it in the first place? Yeah, it is curious for sure.
Yeah, that is something interesting to note, because it's like a lot of the food dyes that I'll see that color something, it'll say something like spirulina or like some other natural flavoring. And I'm like, if it's that easy to include something like spirulina, which, it's not necessarily the cheapest ingredient, but it would probably be cheaper for manufacturers to substitute that instead of just having like a straight up like preservative, and that was one question that I was going to ask you. Are there any other chemicals just kind of like on your radar besides the 4 that are being banned that you would stay away from?
Yeah, there's a list of them, but just kind of quick, like the one I was just talking about, red dye number 40, like that could be another one, because that also has similar impacts, carcinogenic and also attention deficit type issues with children, as well as like yellow number 5 and yellow number 6. It's those artificial colors that there's no reason to have them in. And you'll find them even in vitamins. You'll see a fluorescent blue vitamin and it has like blue number 4 in it. Like, why do I need a blue vitamin? Like, I don't care if it's blue or if it's yellow. Like, why does it have to be, some color that I have to then now ingest and that my body has to now get rid of? So those artificial colors, I'm really not a fan of. I try to avoid those all the time, no matter what it is. Blue or red or yellow. And then titanium dioxide is another one that I feel should be the next on the list. And that one's one that keeps food white. So it gives that pristine white color to foods, but it's more in a nanoparticle form. And so those nanoparticles can get into DNA and they can get, really deep into your body and start having negative impacts. So that would be another one that I feel would be a great one to ban. It always seems to run around those things that keep things colored and preserved that have the detriments.
Gotcha. And I think you had touched on it a little bit before, but I think for maybe a lot of people, maybe learning about this for the first time or kind of starting down this, rabbit hole of understanding this world of food kind of and medicine, it can be kind of overwhelming sometimes, I think, to a lot of people to be like, oh my gosh, like, all the things that I normally buy at the grocery store, like, have all these ingredients and they're horrible for me. And I think it can get very daunting and kind of scary and overwhelming, because I've definitely had my little periods of like, oh my God, like total stress. I don't want to eat anything and I'm going crazy. But that's definitely not a good way to address it either. So I guess my question is kind of, how would you recommend someone kind of approach this? What should their mental approach be to kind of looking at this in not an overwhelming sense?
Yeah, starting one thing at a time. So not taking it and saying, oh my God, I had to throw everything out of the fridge and everything out of the pantry and dumping it all in the dumpster and then going to the store and then standing there. Now what do I do? That is definitely not the way to go about it. That's way too overwhelming. So just one thing at a time. All right, let's work on, if you eat cereal, you're a cereal family, let's work on cereal. Like, let's start with breakfast and work our way down, so let's change our cereals and find other options. And then maybe we change some snacks. And then maybe we tend to have a bread that we're gravitating to, and we find out that might not be the best. And we want to switch that, then switch out your breads, and really just taking it one step at a time. Don't fret about everything that might not be perfect at the moment, because you can't change everything all at once with anything. No matter what it is, you can't change everything all at once. You can really only do one thing at a time, and being okay with doing one thing at a time. And I think that as our human nature, we tend to want to just do everything all at once, and then we just kind of throw ourselves into the mess, and now we don't know how to get out of it. I think if we can just take a step back and fix one thing at a time, and then just replace those things, just one by one, and then by the end of a month, maybe you have the good majority of your kitchen and your meals switched out, because it is a lot to take on. It's like, all right, now I'm not eating my standard packaged foods and my convenience frozen foods that I'm having for lunch, and I'm going to make my own. It can be a lot to all of a sudden have new foods to deal with, and then have to cook and do all these things. And it can be a time constraint for people. So really just taking it one at a time. Finding a new recipe. All right, I'm going to start cooking at home. I'm going to cook one meal a week, and then do 2 meals a week, and then do 3 meals a week. So really taking it one step at a time.
So I'm going to state the obvious and say, Emily, it looks like the sun kind of like gravitated from because it was in my face, and now it's like in Emily's face.
Yeah.
This always happens during our interviews, is that the sun just like moves in one of our faces. So like, I think it was really funny. So my question, and this is my last question, Emily, I don't know how many more you had, but for one of the this is like a fun holiday question, and something I want to ask you specifically because you're a nutritionist. What is what is your favorite holiday candy? And is it the same kind of like Halloween candy that you would recommend for people to give out that would be, I guess, like more balanced than just sugar?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to candy, I love my candy, but I do try to make it, better candy. So, and I'm trying to think of the name. There's this one candy company that makes little chocolate bars, and I get them at Whole Foods, and the name of it is really blanking me, but they'll have little peanut butter cups, or almond butter cups, or they'll have like the chocolate covered coconut little things.
Because I go to I'm a big chocolate. I also love candy, chocolate person.
Yeah.
So I can probably name a few brands. There's Eating Evolved, Chalk Zero, Hue.
Yes, I love Hue.
Hue is really good. Mast, which is more like a designer company, so I don't know if it's like in every Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. So do any of those ring a bell?
Yeah, a lot of those do, and I think it's like Unreal might be
Unreal. Okay, yes.
Unreal, yeah, that'll make like the little pack, like the little fun candies, and they'll make little fun size for Halloween, and so you can pass those out and have like Halloween type candies that are on the healthier front. Yeah, they still have sugar in it, but it's real sugar. It's not high fructose corn syrup, and it's a good quality chocolate, and it doesn't come along with the artificial colors and parabens and things in there. So I feel good about doing something like that, because we still want to have our treats. I'm not opposed to treats.
Yes, I'm a big chocolate person. I will always have like something sweet at the end of the night. And right now, usually it's chocolate, but right now it seems to be more pumpkin spice flavored sort of treats.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't know if I think there's that YouTuber, Mr. Beast. I think he makes chocolate that has like 5 ingredients or less or something, and it's supposed to be very healthy. So that's, I think, another one that's now in a lot of the grocery stores.
Okay, check that out.
But really, I didn't. My last question is actually more of a comment, I guess I've realized, than a question. But this conversation, I think. Makes me really interested for the 2024 election, because I don't know if you guys have followed kind of any of the commentary or interviews that have been going on.
My life? Yeah. 2024 election?
Life. but there's been quite a few candidates who seem very interested or wanting to very much run on the platform of chronic illnesses and diseases in this country, and how it's our food contributing, and it's our water supply, and it's the pharmaceutical companies. So I find that very interesting, and I'm so happy that this is finally like a topic of conversation within our political system, that might actually maybe come to fruition with this upcoming election. So I just find that very interesting. And I love that these candidates, this is something that they're passionate about, because this is something I'm passionate about. So just a quick little commentary I wanted to make, that I think it'll be a very interesting election season with the opinions that these candidates have.
And it seems like, just my commentary on this, because this is like my background, my full-time job is in this like political DC world. And it seems like as if what I saw as the catalyst, and again, I'm very young in my DC media career, is the price of pharmaceuticals. And so once people start pushing back on the price, then it started becoming more into like the holistic, let's take a bigger look at like what's in our food and what's in our products. And then there's even a conversation about the FDA versus the USDA in terms of like regulating foods and stuff like that. So yeah, just my 2 cents.
Yeah. A lot of shift and change, which I think it's great that we're starting to have the conversation, because I think it really is important, because I am really passionate about food and its impact on somebody's health. I believe we are, the saying is we are what we eat, and it's even deeper than that. We are what we absorb, what we digest, and food really is information, and it's not just calories, and it's not just what gives us energy, but it gives us information, and it tells our genes what to do. And so our health is really dictated on the food that we're eating, the things that we're ingesting, the medications that we're taking. And so we can't just be lackadaisical about it and feel like, oh, well, if it's here, it must be safe. No, we have to look at it and really do our due diligence and make sure that what we're doing and taking and ingesting is really going to do our body good or not.
Well, that was a good note to end on. Paula, thank you so much for joining us, and we greatly appreciate your time. I am super jealous of your location in sunny California, Southern California. And again, we'll make sure to link your website and all relevant links to this conversation in our comments below. And thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. It was super great. Thanks.
Thank you.